We're taking Jurassic World Evolution 2 to outer space and building a hybrid research facility on Mars. I have a super important tip for you for whenever you're building a huge aviary. Go into settings and switch off instant construction. This makes decorating an aviary so much easier. Now when you place the aviaries, pause the game so all you have are the outer walls. That way, the domes don't obstruct the camera and you can move around freely as you decorate. My Martian facility consists of 7 different areas. The entry area with lots of storage, the 3 habitats for the 3 most alien-looking hybrids, and 3 farm areas, 1 for fish, 1 for goats, and 1 for fruits and vegetables. And of course, outside we have a launch platform and landing pad. I built it one section at a time, starting with the fish farm. For the fish farm, I made another dock using the benches, which is something I've done in a previous video as well, to make a proper dock for ships. All of this is without mods, it just takes a little bit of finagling. I also need to put out a correction. I attributed the discovery of this glitch of getting benches in the water to the wrong person last time. It was discovered by the Mesozoic world. I've linked their channel below for you to check out. To make the fish farm, I placed a lot of the fish feeders, and I was really surprised at how you can get these so close together. So I could have done even more than I did, but I wasn't sure if the game would glitch out if I did. Around the water where they breed fish, I just filled the space with supplies. I mimicked a water filtration system with the Jurassic Park sheds and created an area where staff could change clothes, like change into waders so they could walk into the water, net the fish, that sort of stuff. Area of the facility is the goat farm. I left a cutout in the aviary to give it a bit more of an interesting shape, and I built the goat paddock around that. The purpose of the goats are twofold. Obviously, they are food for both the staff and the hybrids, but they also produce droppings, which is used to fertilize the fruit and vegetable farm in another section. Obviously, a facility on Mars is a bit of a weird build to be doing in Jurassic World Evolution 2, but aside from the fact that the game is almost 3 years old and I've built a lot of parks at this point and was looking for something different, what I hope is that you realize you can use elements of this weird build in a regular park. I think it could actually be really cool to incorporate a farm into your park and pretend that breeding fish and goats and growing paleo plants to feed the dinosaurs is a necessary part of park management. That's something I'll be doing for my realistic park build because I think it adds a lot of depth and story to a park and makes it feel like a real place. vegetable farm is my favorite part of this build. I've built farms like this several times before, but a new detail here is the water irrigation system, which are rows of the fountains. And you'd imagine that, like a sprinkler, instead of the water just going straight up and down, it would go back and forth, watering the plants on either side. I thought that was a cool detail to add to this Martian environment, but again, that's something you could incorporate in your more normal parks as well. Because water is so important to farming, whether it's on Mars or on Earth, I also added water tanks to the ends of each row and again used the Jurassic Park sheds as a water filtration system. There's also a compost area off to one side and a staff section on the other side. Before we get to the enclosures for the hybrids, there is one more staff section, and that is the entry area. When staff first arrives, they go through decontamination, same as when they leave, and the first section of the facility is about receiving the supplies that come in. So there's a lot of containers and crates. My idea was to park jeeps inside the aviary because that's how employees would get around the giant facility, since walking these distances back and forth for every little thing is a bit much, and I had it all planned out with parking spaces for the jeeps. Unfortunately, as it turns out, you can't drive jeeps into the aviaries. The tour gate will open for the jeeps, but you can't drive through. So that was quite disappointing and made me wish all the more that we'd have vehicles as placeable decorations. Maybe, hopefully, that's something we'll see in Jurassic World Evolution 3. By the way, if you want to stay up to date on Jurassic World Evolution 3, and of course see what else I'll be building in Jurassic World Evolution 2 in the meantime, subscribe to the channel. Now we're finally getting to the enclosures for the hybrids. Because I don't use mods yet, I can't get fences into the aviary. But luckily we have the Malta wall pieces to create a wall. I could have also used the Jurassic Park wall pieces, but those felt a little too decorated. And I've been using Malta decoration pieces all over the place anyway, so this was more cohesive. To make the perimeter a little more bulky and secure looking, I added the metal biosyn lights as support struts to reinforce the wall, and I also added the Jurassic World lights. And aside from beefing up the wall, these lights actually also have a story function. They are sensors, and when they detect a breach in the wall or just a crack in the wall, the light goes from green to red to alert staff that a wall is in need of maintenance to contain the animal. For consistency, I used the same wall design for all 3 hybrids, and then around the enclosures there are watchtowers to keep an eye on the animals, and of course there are supplies and parking lots for the jeeps that I couldn't get into the aviary. The habitats themselves are super barren to mimic what Mars would be like, just sand and rocks, and each habitat has a puddle of water that is pumped there by the water filtration system. For safety reasons, the staff quarters are in a separate aviary bubble connected to the bigger facility with a pretend walkway structure consisting of maintenance sheds. Within the staff quarters, the staff, like each person, has their own trailer with their beds and a little kitchen and space for their personal belongings, and there are some tables for hanging out together for, all important team building exercises and whatnot. The final part of the build was the launch and landing pads, starting with the ladder, which is just an octagon of path where X marks the spot. I should have added more to the landing pad as well, pretty much the same as what I did for the launch pad, but I didn't really think it through at the time, unfortunately. At this point, as I was building this, I was already quite sick, which is why there haven't been any videos for the past 2 weeks, so I blamed the fever. I do like that I've made the landing pad look weathered by creating cracks in the pathing. I've done the same for the launch pad, but with a different pattern to the pathing. And I added a zipline building because it has an opening at the top where supplies could be loaded into the rocket. And on the other side, I initially had 2 tall floodlights, but I replaced those with power lines as they're just a little bit taller. And together with the zipline building, those would hold the rocket upright during liftoff. Again, should have added all of this stuff to the landing pad as well for unloading personnel and supplies, but I didn't think that one through. Off to the side of the launch pad is a mission control building where a barrier in front of it protects it from the blast of the rocket when it takes off. And that concludes the build for my Martian research facility. If you've enjoyed this video, check out another hybrid research facility that I've done for On the Moon. And a shout out to Felix McKinney for giving me the idea to build a facility on Mars as well. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, enjoy the game.